Nau mai haere mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihera o ngā roto o Rotorua. Welcome everybody to this meeting of the Rotorua Lakes Council. Just a reminder that it is being live streamed, so if you could please have your phones on silent, and we will take the submissions through until the end of the day. Before we start though, I'll just start us with the karakia. Tūtoa mai runga, tūtoa mai raro, tūtoa mai roto, tūtoa mai waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haumie, huie, tae kia. Thank you. So just for our submitters, how today will work is we will call you up and get you to sit on the seats here, and you will see the timer as well. So you do have 5 minutes to make your presentation, your submission, but I understand that we'll take the first two together. We'll just note that we do have apologies from Councillor Brown and also Councillor Wang. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Barker. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. And just checking there were no declarations of interest. Nope. And also, if I could have a mover and a seconder to receive this report, Annual Plan 25-26 hearing to be received. Moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Councillor Kaifong. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. So we will get underway, and I'd like to invite, first up, Janine Anderson from VR Security. Kia ora, welcome. This is submitter number 29 on page 50. Sorry, 41 on page 72. But we do have people who are joining us by Zoom, and we'll go to them shortly. So I'd like to welcome Janine Anderson. The floor is now yours. Thank you for being here.
Kia ora. I am Janine Anderson from VR Security or Venue Response. I'm speaking on the Rotorua night market and on option 1, status quo. Since 2010, the Rotorua night market has been operating in the heart of Tūtāneko Street, and it has met the milestones of revitalisation of the inner city. VR Security has been the contractor providing labour, traffic management, security and the ambassadorial roles for the last 8 years. Together alongside RLC, we have worked in partnership to create a positive, clean and safe environment for all to enjoy and participate in. Our vendors are integral to the deliverance of this market. They appreciate this space and value their contribution to the benefits they receive. Unison, the sponsor of the sign-written tents, overhead lights and power supply are acknowledged for their commitment to the ongoing success of the market. Unison, VR Security, vendors, entertainers, community groups and smart environment have delivered on the 6 key values of RLC, which is engaged, respectful, helpful, inspiring, innovative and committed to biculturalism. To serve our community, without one another we would not achieve these outcomes. In regards to retailers, some of the retailers between Hinemoa and Haupapa have aligned their stores' closing times to the night market, providing an increase in their trading hours. We have always worked to be respectful to everyone who works, lives and visits our city by building positive relationships. The night market has weathered the storm of COVID and the aftermath, which has portrayed Rotorua in a negative light in the media for many years. The night market has continued to maintain the meet, greet, entertain and share time exploring new foods, live music and cultural awareness. The Rotorua community puts their best foot forward every week, dependent upon weather, to showcase a warm and inviting area together. We have noticed that tourist buses are now coming back into our city, bringing visitors from Australia, Sweden, Germany, America and Japan, just to name a few. Large sports groups such as Tarawera Ultramarathon, Wakaama Nationals, National Māori Basketball, and recently in Taupo V8 supercars. The market has generated this friendly and welcoming atmosphere, highlighting the positive side of our city. Our feedback device is stationed in the intersection of the market. It is bilingual in both English and Te Reo Māori. Most, if not all, the streets in the inner city of Rotorua are Māori names, indicating our unique identity as a Māori cultural destination. We, Venue Response, have likened ourselves as a stepping stone for our employees. We employ locals and we also employ youth, giving them opportunities, pathways and employment choices they may have not even have thought of. Male youth are often seen and spoken about in a negative light. By employing locals and youths, we have offered purpose, contribution and work ethic. We have seen amazing blow-on effects. Recently, as of last week, we have had 2 of our local New Zealand police officers who once worked in this very market approach and say thank you. So for ones who wish to walk through the door is open for many opportunities. As a ratepayer, I know exactly where my contribution is going to our Rotorua community, and I am happy to continue. So kia ora. Thank you.
Kia ora, Janine. Thank you very much for both your written submission and also for being here to share that today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So now I'd like to invite 2 submitters up who'd like to present together. We have Sahar Bazur and Farnound Rahimi Mansour. And this is submitter number 33 and 34 on pages 58 and 60. Kia ora, Sahar and Farnound. And when you're ready, you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for your time and specified the time for us to speak at the hearings. My name is Farnoud and my wife is Sahar. We have a stall in the night market, which started 1 year ago. Unwantedly, we reserved 2 slots, and I apologize for that. But based on my record, my speech would take about 6 to 7 minutes. Hopefully, I can finish it faster. Okay, to be honest, I discussed with many people in the market and around myself, and they believe that the council has already made the decision and talking is waste of time. But I'm here only, and I wish to change your mind if there is only 1% chance, because it's really my life depends on the market, and that's the reason I'm here. You can find the feedback in the file I presented before, so I don't repeat them again. But today, I prefer to focus on the night market only because it's my field of expertise, and I'm not familiar with the Tarawera system, so I prefer others talk about that one. Okay, the council announced that the market costs 200K for them per year. Are you aware of the rate that apply to the market stallholders? We, as a stallholder, pay 172 for 4 hours only. So by simple calculation, multiplying this 172, if you assume only there are 25 stallholders, and you multiply it by number of weeks per year, you will easily reach more than 200K. So I'm not sure how this 200K is, the council is losing money. And this type of market is, you can find every country in anywhere during the whole year, and it's not something complex that you cannot handle it. Please take it seriously, because later I go through my whole story, which is set me to explain to others, but my life is really rely on this market at the moment, unfortunately. Another thing, for example, the Matariki event, which will be held next month, 19 and 20 of June. You know how much the council is charging us? 350 for 4 hours only. Last year it was 160. Suddenly it's become more than twice. Yeah, because they found more than 30,000 people attend. So the people start thinking, why we don't earn more? We can put any rate. So that's the reason I believe that the fourth option is totally wrong. Because if you give to another group to run it, definitely no one care about the price that they can charge us. They can put 400, 500 and easily say, okay, you don't want, don't join. In Auckland, the rate is about 300, 400. So no one can control them. That reason is not fair to the vendors, to be honest. Okay, now I want to demonstrate by a simple example how any changes to the market can affect people who rely on this market, and especially it will put me in a high risk to become next homeless people. Really, I can be homeless. Next group. Remember today, remember my name, and follow up if any changes apply. I will prove you easily. You might ask why. What is the reason? How it's possible, you might ask. Yeah, it's really simple. When you listen to my story, you will find it out. My name is Farnood. I came to a structural engineer with PhD degree, with 12 years working experience. And you know who am I now? Uber driver. You might ask why this person is not expert. No, I came here by a sponsorship working visa 2 years ago. I joined WSP Rotorua office. And unfortunately, after the new government come, they make not good solution. Instead of thinking more about the consequences, they choose the easiest way. They can think how to earn more money instead of how to earn more money. They think about the solution, how to earn more money. They selected the easiest way. Cut the project. Doesn't matter what is the consequences, but they didn't know. Many people lost their job, and I was one of them. After 1 year and 7 months, I lost my job, and now I'm Uber driver. I drive 13 hours a day to only survive, cover my rental and utilities, that's all. And my living expenses come from all market. So if you do any changes to the market, really I don't know how to survive, to be honest. It's really difficult, I'm telling you, most people don't know. I'm a structural engineer, PhD, 12 years working experience, now Uber driver. Really, sometimes I'm shy in front of my family. My son asks for a toy and I cannot afford it. The restaurant that you go as a hobby with your friends and family, now is the dream for me. I cannot afford, to be honest. Now you look at my balance, it's actually the amount I earn, gone. At the end of the month, nothing. I cannot go to restaurant, the luxury restaurant that mostly people go. I go to Eat Street every day to to pick up the food, and I see people sitting there, really I'm shy. And I believe that the council is, if you do any changes to the market, exactly you are doing the same thing that the government did. Instead of think about how to cut the project, try to think how to invest some project to earn more money, not apply money to the taxpayers. No, there are lots of solutions. You can put entertainment center here or lots of solutions. I'm not expert in that time. It's only idea. So you are more expert. You can think about, instead of cutting this market to half year or give to another person or change the location, there are lots of solutions. Believe me, many people I know, they are doing full-time in the market and their life rely on the market. So please, before any decision, consider this thing. And I told you, if you want to see more homeless people, refer to me. If you do any changes, to be honest, I don't have any earning from, or my market earning drop down. My Uber job only cover my rental. So how should I pay for my living expenses? And in that time, to be honest, if you do any changes, I have to raise my hand up because I don't have any solution to do. I did my best for my family. I feel useless and you can shoot the last bullet to me, to be honest. I don't have any other solution. Now I tell to my next generation, don't study. I study and I'm the Uber driver now. I don't bring the value of driver down. They are really nice people. I have lots of Uber friends. They really work hard. And you don't know how difficult job is it. They work overnight sometimes. And the shop don't treat them nicely. The customer don't treat them nicely. And they only do this one for some extra money. If they had any opportunity to find a better job, definitely they go for that one. No one is interested to work overtime, overnight, for few $100s only. And really, they are nice people. I know this one. And once again, please think wisely before making any decision. Because wrong decision have really bad consequences for not only me. I'm only one example of those people, and will affect lots of vendors who rely on this business for full time. And as I told you, this market you can find it everywhere in any country. Please think how to run it carefully, and council and the vendors benefit together. Thank you so much again for your time, and sorry if I talk so much, and hope you stand in the right side. Thanks again, and have a good day.
Thank you very, very much. We wish you all the best as well. We do appreciate your time today. Thank you. We are now going to go to Rotorua Trails Trust. It's my pleasure to invite Claire Scott up, and elected members, this is submitted number 94, page 275. Welcome, Claire.
Hi. Let's press this. Kia ora. And thank you for the opportunity for me to speak today. I'm Claire Scott. I am a trustee of the Rotorua Trails Trust, and I'm not here with a complaint, but with a good news story. A story of local success that's grown faster, bigger, and further than I think anyone could have imagined. And now it just needs a little help to keep up with itself. So about 10 years ago, the Rotorua Mountain Bike Club took a bold step and created the Rotorua Trails Trust to invest in and care for our growing trail network. That investment has paid off in a big way. Our 300 kilometres worth of trails are now one of Rotorua's most valuable recreational and economic assets. They support major events, bring in visitors, boost health and well-being, and help tell a broader story of what makes Rotorua special. Of course, Rotorua has been long known for its rich multicultural and geothermal wonders, and the trail network now adds another layer to that identity. We've become not just a cultural capital and geothermal hub, but we are a globally recognised destination for mountain biking and trail running. So let's talk numbers. In 2021, an economic impact study funded by Rotorua NZ, thank you, showed that 140 million in annual visitor spending came from mountain biking alone. It also supported 1,153 local jobs. That figure doesn't even include trail running, which has become the fastest growing sport in the world. We're currently in the process of updating that study because usage has grown significantly since then. In February 2025, the Tarawera Ultramarathon brought 5,000 runners to town and delivered 10 million in visitor spending in just one weekend. The Run the Forest event in 2024 brought 3,000 visitors, and 91% of those were from outside of Rotorua. And to give you a sense of daily use, this summer, just one trail alone, over 6 weeks, recorded 17,000 riders. So that's just a glimpse of what's happening across the whole network. It's not just visitors either. These trails attract residents, and I'm sure many of you know people who have relocated here for the lifestyle that these trails offer. We now have a mountain bike academy that draws young athletes to town, and we're also producing world-class competitors like Jenna Hastings, Lockie Stevens-McNabb, and Te Hauroariki Penny, all locals dominating in the international mountain biking scene, which we're really, really proud of. We've also been hosting the Mountain Bike National Champs this year, and we've got it again in 2026 and 2027, which is really exciting. This is a community building in action, people coming here, staying here, and contributing to the fabric of Rotorua. But behind this this big success is a small and stretched team. The Rotorua Trails Trust is governed by 8 volunteers. We employ 4 full-time staff, and around 70 active trail adoptees contribute the equivalent of 8 weeks full-time labour per year. That's an incredible effort, but it is declining. Time is a harder thing to give in today's climate. At the same time, donations, sponsorships and grants are getting harder to secure, and we're currently facing a forecasted $140,000 funding shortfall this year alone. So I'm here to ask, for an asset this significant, is it truly sustainable to manage it off the side of volunteers' desks with only a fraction of the required funding? So let me be clear, this isn't a crisis, this is a good problem. I'm not here because something's broken, I'm here because something's thriving. But the model that helped us grow isn't enough to sustain what we've become. We're doing more with less year after year, and unpredicted weather events like Easter weekend don't help either. Pulling our team off planned work to clear fallen trees and repair damage. Forestry operations are another challenge. We've got a national downhill track to rebuild for this time next year. So to continue delivering for Rotorua, we need a stronger foundation. So today, we're asking Council to re-evaluate and increase the annual funding contribution to the Rotorua Trails Trust, recognise the return on that investment, not just in dollars, but in identity, well-being, events, employment and civic pride, and partner with us to develop a sustainable long-term funding model for one of Rotorua's most important regional assets. So in closing, this is a good news story, a Rotorua success we should all be proud of, but to keep it going, we need to start treating these trails as the essential infrastructure that they've become. So thank you for your time and your service to our city, and I'm done. Time to spare. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire. There is time for a question if there are any.
Yes.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm a golfer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. I don't do a whole lot of mountain biking myself, but I recall we had a husband and wife who came to our golf club one day. The wife was going to go off mountain biking, and he played golf. It cost him $40 to come to our golf course and play golf. Do you think that there is any opportunity to charge visitors to use the cycle trails and to pay for the upkeep of it all, as would happen with a golf course, for example?
Well, Whakarewarewa Forest is owned by the iwi, and so there is no way that we'd ever be able to ask for charge. There's a Crown licence on it until 2042 that pretty much says the iwi need to allow Whakarewarewa Forest for recreational use. Until 2042, we can't charge for that. We are the only mountain biking destination in Rotorua that you don't have to become part of the club or anything to ride here. But in saying that, we've got the largest membership for a club that people don't need to join to ride. So yes, people have always said would pay to ride here, absolutely, but we can't enforce it.
Do other destinations charge?
Yeah, nearly every other destination.
So Rotorua is the exception?
Yeah,
okay.
So we're the only ones that do it for free.
For love, so the ratepayers should pay for Aucklanders. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it's not necessarily the case. As we've heard, pretty much the whole entire world benefits from what we've got in our backyard. Yeah. So thank you very much, Claire, and can we also thank the many volunteers that are part of the Rotorua Trails Trust.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're now going to go to Zoom. We have Wendy Bickerton and Lynn Williams will be speaking on behalf of Wendy. This is submission number 29 on page 50. And we'll just give a moment for Lynn Williams to come onto our screen. Hello, Lynn. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, Lynn.
Hello.
So you have 5 minutes to speak to this submission, and I'll let you know when that time is up. So all the best, and we hand over to you.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Right. My name is Lynn Williams, and I'm speaking on behalf of my partner, Wendy Bickerton, trustee of 15 Ronald Road, Lake Tarawera. Wendy apologises for not attending as she is supporting her daughter who is about to give birth in Auckland. The Bickerton family have owned the property for 28 years and have had many happy times at the lake, and one of the third generation of the Bickertons is to enjoy the lake are arriving as I speak. The property is not lakefront and the septic tank from the property is not leaching into the lake as there is very low annual usage. Wendy has conditionally supported the sewage scheme but did not support some payment for affordability reasons. Wendy believes that Lake Taura residents have carried an unfair rates burden relative to services provided for a long time. Residents have no footpaths, no rubbish collection, no council water. We clean the drains adjacent to our home and we spray the weeds. Despite being extremely unhappy with the council process and lack of cost control, Wendy chooses to look forward to a pragmatic and fair solution that provides affordable certainty for her family. She wishes to be treated fairly with similar lake sewage schemes and costs balanced between residents and the wider community who are the dominant users of the lake. Wendy supports the Lake Tarawera Sewage Working Group in seeking a fair and certain outcome. Turning to her submission. Just one moment. Wendy says that she rejects each of the three options above because they are not offered in good faith, as Tarawera ratepayers are not being treated fairly or equitably when compared to the other lake ratepayers. The narrative supplied by the council and the options offered have been framed in a way that will provide predetermined answers, particularly from non-Tarawera voters, and therefore cannot be relied upon. There is no rationale provided for any of the options and no information provided of the community funding suggestions and solutions. We are responsible ratepayers with limited resources and simply put, the proposed options are unaffordable. However, Wendy conditionally supports a modified option 3 as follows. A capital rate capped at no more than $36,600, including GST. Incidentally, it's 63% higher than the East Rotorua scheme, 63% higher. Any future increases in costs associated with the Green Lake protests are excluded. Rotorua Lakes Council to negotiate with the Regional Council for the extra $4 million required. Each of the conditions above are interdependent to obtain Wendy's support for the modified option 3. Upon receiving an undertaking from Rotorua Lakes Council of a fixed fee of $36,600, Wendy will sign the location plan with the council. She had offered to do that by the 15th of May. She's not heard from the council. He has met with the contractor on site, or one of her representatives has, and has worked with them to work out a location, but she has not signed the document. The last thing Wendy would like to say is that she feels oppressed by the council process. She has consistently said she's in favour of the sewage scheme because she feels it's the right thing to do, not because she believes there is compelling scientific evidence that the lake will be cleaner after the scheme goes live. She feels that the latest threat that she must sign a location plan for her pump or be commercially fined is continued oppression and not a good faith process and unfair. And that's all we have to say. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.
Of your submissions. Welcome, Warren. When you're ready, you'll have 5 minutes. If there is any time remaining, then we're happy to ask questions.
Kia ora, and thank you, Mayor, councillors and council staff for allowing me to present my submission in person. I apologise, I'm going to refer to my notes because I'm not a good public speaker. My name is Warren Lloyd. I live at 472 Spencer Road, and I'm submitting on my wife's behalf and my own. We both grew up in the Bay of Plenty and have always loved Lake Tarawera and the mountain. We're very keen to be involved in any way to make the lake more healthy and better to protect them. We initially explored an OSET, on-site effluent treatment system in 2015 when we bought our property. And then on learning about the initiative to provide a public pipe system at the same cost as what an OSET would have cost us at $26,000, it was a very easy decision to go with the piped community system. We were very keen on that. I'm not sure if we knew that the cost was not capped and it's already been predicted to cost $50,000, we would have opted. We probably would have opted for the OSET system back then, so it's kind of, you just don't know how things are going to play out. And also, when I extrapolate the costs over time for how the project has evolved, there's potential for the cost of this project to be significantly higher than $50,000. And if it does get higher, we might find ourselves in a position where we can't afford to stay there any longer, which is something we certainly don't want to entertain. We do feel we're being coerced by council, asking us to sign the consent form by a certain date to get the subsidy. It's created it's like a little bit of an ultimatum. Well, it is an ultimatum, I guess, and it's divided our community and it's put financial pressure on us, which is quite stressful and causes a bit of anxiety. And it's also, I don't know if anyone's talked about this, but when you talk to your neighbours, you kind of don't know which camp they're in. It's kind of created a little bit of friction and anti-community amongst us, which has been a little bit of a sad outcome. And as I say, no one knows how this is going to play out in the end. Hopefully it's going to play out that we're going to get a really good system and the lake's going to be good and healthy. The investment in the sewer system will protect the lake and environment for generations to come, not just for the people who currently make up the lake community. The lake is going to outlive us all. That's something that is obvious. In my submission, I gave support to option 3, and this is based on there's a much wider community that enjoys the lake. There's the local, national, and there's even international visitors that enjoy the lake, and they benefit from a healthy lake. And I put my support for option 3, which was as the working group recommended, as follows. We wanted it capped at the $36,600 per connection, including GST. Future escalation costs, including the Rotorua Lakes cost, would be excluded from the project. We were quite keen to see that excluded. It's kind of unfair on us to pay them, but I also appreciate that it's probably unfair on council to pay for them because they couldn't preempt how that was going to play out. But we do want Rotorua Lakes Council to engage with the regional council as well to see if they can bully them to be a bit more generous with some funding. And that's all I have. Thank you very much for listening. Oh, look, no, there is something else I want to say. The mountain biking in Rotorua is phenomenal. It's really, really good, so I really support what the Trails Trust was saying. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Warren. Would you be open to a question if there is
Yes.
one? Are there any questions? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Lloyd, for taking the time to come and see us today and talking to us to your submission. Can I ask you, when you ask us to consult with Regional Council, what would be your response if we said to you, well, we have been, but unfortunately, we have 3 councillors out of, I think 14, out of, who represent the entire bay. That's 3, so even if they can get support, they would need majority support for any financial assistance. What happens if they say no? How would you like us to progress if...
No, I don't have an answer for you. I don't know. No, I don't know how you should progress that.
Okay, thank you. Would you mind if I ask one more question? Could I ask, did you submit a submission to the Regional Council as part of their long-term plan?
No, I didn't.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
again for coming in.
And unfortunately, they are not consulting on their current annual plan. But we do really appreciate you taking the time to make a submission to us. We know this is important for the Tarawera community. Thank you for your time today. I'd now like to invite Kathleen. So Kathleen Dillner, and this is page number 281, submitter 96. Welcome, Kathleen.
So, Mayor Tapsell and members of the Council, thank you for this opportunity to speak to my submission today. My family has owned property at 155 Spencer Road since 1948, when my grandfather built a very modest bach for himself, my mother and our family. Rates have been faithfully paid on time since then, even though, as you know, we've received no water, sewerage, footpaths, bus service, or even a rubbish collection. We're grateful for the 52 plastic bags we get and we can collect annually. Since taking over the property 10 years ago, our rates have continued to climb from 6 to 10,000. It does seem odd that the more money one puts into their home and grounds, the more one is expected to pay in rates. Over these past years, at the rough guess, we have paid around $72,000. And if you add the 60 years of rates on top of that, I would say we've paid for our reticulation many times over already. When we built the new house, due to the deterioration of the bach, we were required to put in an offset system, costing $20,000, and we were assured that we would not need to join the reticulation scheme. We don't feel we should be forced to pay again when we have a perfectly good system which we keep serviced every 6 months at the cost of almost $600 annually. We're not impressed with the reticulation transfer station that's been built right beside our drive, causing months of disruption, cones, lights, noise and mud. It is an eyesore and should never have been placed right beside our drive, made our entrance very unattractive and possibly devalued it. We have been very accommodating, allowing trucks to work in our driveway, but the grass areas on either side of the driveway have been left in an unacceptable state, meaning they're full of weeds and difficult to mow now because of the awkward angle they've been left at. I believe the government and council have a mandate and responsibility to make sure that all ratepayers are treated fairly and that the reticulation is seen as a basic need for every community. It annoys me when I hear comments like, oh, Tarawera residents are rich, so they can afford to pay more. And we hear it. Of course, not all residents are wealthy. Many are retired and elderly and find the rates difficult to pay. In any case, it should not matter whether residents are rich or poor. Everyone should be treated fairly, and we in Tarawera have not been treated the same as residents in other parts of the Rotorua district. I was shocked to hear Mike Allen state to the Bay of Plenty Regional Council recently that he believed 80% of the residents here would agree to a 50-50 deal and pay $36,000. I don't believe this for a moment. If this was the case, why are so many residents objecting to the current proposals? It's disheartening to see our rates being spent on poorly planned projects like the lakefront and other projects to provide for tourists and holiday makers rather than caring first for those who live here and pay high rates. Lake Tarawera is a national treasure, and it is visited by people from all over the world, as well as hundreds of New Zealanders. We have guests who come twice a year from Kirikiri because they love this lake so much. The council and government should do all they can to keep this lake protected and look after the residents, some of whom may have to sell their homes and are suffering from anxiety because they can't afford the proposed scheme. Why has it taken so long to get the scheme underway? We have had meeting after meeting with such slow progress, causing the cost to escalate. Any future costs and all current costs, including those caused by the protests at Rotorua Lakes, should not be a burden to ratepayers and must be excluded from the proposed cost. It has been disturbing to hear just the possibility of funds earmarked for reticulation being used for other projects. If this is the case, then this should be addressed in amends made. Even if the fault lies with former council members, this is your opportunity to make things right. You were elected to do your best for all of us, and I'm sure you will want to be remembered as the council that put people first before yourselves. In conclusion, I don't believe that my husband and I should have to pay anything, but as this is most unlikely, ratepayers at Tarawera should not be expected to pay any more than those at the other Rotorua Lakes, and that those who have already got a modern accepted sewerage system should be given a considerable discount if forced to join the reticulation scheme. So thank you for this opportunity to express my thoughts. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, Kathleen. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, no time.
Oh, sorry, we did run out of time.
Yep.
Thank you, though. Though she's very clear in her submission. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Rohan Wells to make his submission. And this is page number 32.
Hours early. Obviously a few. Right, so good afternoon, Mayor Tapsell and councillors. Some of you I'm quite familiar with. So I'm Rohan Wells. I'm a retired NIWA scientist and I've worked on Lake Tarawera for decades. When Steve Chadwick was Minister for Conservation, Regional Council had me inform her on lakes functioning and management with a half-hour seminar. I'm also the one who wrote to you all individually over misleading signage at Tarawera about the sewage. I sympathise with you having to listen to hours and hours of submissions. I really appreciate the efforts of Robert and Conan and others for stepping up and supporting the plight of Tarawera community. But no doubt the focus of the submissions is on financial impact and the targeted rate. I'll give you something different, some fun facts from mainstream referenceable science. So Lake Management 101, the receiving waters reflect the geography and activities in the catchment. Lake Tarawera is in an active volcanic zone with large geothermal inputs, but we don't have a measure of them. They have major effects. Even the Ruapeu eruptions in the mid-90s spread ash on the lake, stripping phosphorus from the water column, hence the markedly better water quality at that time. Lake Tarawera is a deep, flat bottom lake around 80 metres and so has a very large volume of water, about 6 times that of Lake Rotorua, so it's more stable. The catchment is about 65% native vegetation, 15% pines, 20% farming and less than 1% residential. About 15% of the shoreline has a low-density housing with about 90% holiday homes infrequently visited and on septic tanks. Estimates of sewage contributions from residents from the Lake Tarawera restoration plan were given as an average daily equivalent of 291 for residents and 484 for visitors. So visitors contribute by far more, the majority, and that should be reflected in who pays. The water quality in the lake is currently classified as good. However, in 2012, the Regional Council raised the alarm that the water quality had deteriorated markedly, dropping to fair. So a sewage scheme was imposed as an imperative to save the lake. Nitrogen and phosphorus are the driving nutrients. Fecal coliforms indicate human health. But they're fine. Regional Council posted that farming contributed around 30% of the nutrients to the lake, with sewage around 10%. So the Tarawera community supported the sewage scheme that was priced similarly to an OSET system, and it was championed by the LTRA. However, firstly, sewage was never 10% of the nutrient inflow. Regional Council funded university data shows the sewage contains around 2%. But between 65 and 80% of the nitrogen and well over 90% of the phosphorus is intercepted by the soil profile before it reaches the lake, making that figure less than 1%. Secondly, in 2019, the university informed the Regional Council that their analyses of nitrogen and phosphorus were so bad that they couldn't be used, so the alarming deterioration in water quality was false. The memo also recommended reassessing nutrient targets and a revised action plan for the lake. Boy, what a mess that was. In 2012, the Regional Council called for 13.7 tonnes reduction in nitrogen inputs to the lake. Sewage contains 1 tonne of nitrogen, but with that soil retention, only 300 kgs reaches the lake. So it was not a significant remedy. By 2020, the plan was revised to forget the nitrogen, but reduce phosphorus by 1.2 tonnes instead. And that will meet the target water quality of 2.6 TLI. Interesting. That was what the lake was after the Ruapeo eruptions in 1995, and again in 2010 and in 2020. There's also only 200 kgs of phosphorus in the resident sewage, and virtually all that will be held in the soil and won't enter the lake. Consider this, you've got sewage from 60,000 people that's been sprayed in an area of the Redwoods since 1991. And recent studies have shown that the majority of the phosphorus is contained in the upper 40 centimetres of soil, and the working life of this phosphorus filtering capacity is estimated somewhere between 50 and 130 years. So reticulation won't help with the phosphorus target either. It's disappointing those individuals in council and in the LTRA pushing for reticulation continue to assert that the sewage scheme is imperative to save the lake. Though you'll never hear council say, oh, sorry, we got that one wrong. But councils do have a legal responsibility to be fair. In consideration of what I've presented and what others are presenting, I think you need to decide for yourself whether it's a fair target. Tarawera ratepayers with such a huge financial burden, a $32 million sewage scheme to save 300 kgs of nitrogen from entering the lake. Well, it's nice to have, but it's not worth that kind of money, and so it's not fair to residents. Leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Rohan, for your very well-considered submission. Thank you. We're going to go to Zoom now. We have Susan Pepperell, who is online. Susan, will you be ready to make your submission now?
Yes, I am, if you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you very clearly, thank you. So you have 5 minutes, and we'll hand over to you. Thank you. And sorry, elected members, this is page number 46. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. I'm speaking to you today about the Tarawera Sewerage Scheme as a joint owner of 233 Spencer Road. My association with Tarawera Sewerage goes back several decades to when I was a child and there was a long drop in the backyard. As you can imagine, it was a terrifying experience after dark. So you could say I know my sewerage. I speak today in support of option 3 of the consultation form with the added 3 non-negotiable conditions recommended by the Lake Tarawera Sewerage Working Group, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. As Tarawera property owners, we have lived with the spectre of an open-ended cost to this scheme for many years. We have watched as estimates have gone up and become more and more alarmed. Along with that, there's been a steady channel of misinformation which has been really unhelpful. So I'm really here to implore you to put an end to that and set a targeted fixed minimum price per Tarawera property owner of $36,600, including GST. Affordability is the crucial issue for Tarawera residents and ratepayers. I do not believe $36,000 is affordable for many people, myself included. but I do not accept that that property owners should pay towards the scheme and not further burden Rotorua ratepayers. The situation I am in is one I have seen replicated in a number of Tarawera families. We are the second or third generation owners. Our experience at Tarawera began as children, and it was largely inevitable that the environment and the essence or wairua of the place became an intrinsic part of who we are and where we stand in the world. Make no mistake about Tarawera people, we want the lake protected and we want it enhanced. However, as time has progressed and we have forged our own lives, our circumstances are not those of our parents or grandparents who bought empty sections, cleared the bush and built batches of modest proportions with separate long drops. When my parents died, my sister and I inherited the property and buried their ashes in the bush so they could rest in peace in a place they loved. Some second generation owners along our bay elected to or were forced to sell, and some like us did not, and to continue to scrape together the ongoing costs of rates and maintenance. We know we enjoy an incredible privilege, but I also live in Wellington, where I pay a large mortgage and have experienced eye-watering rates rises. I also live at a time of a cost of living crisis, which I know, like Wellington, is keenly felt in Rotorua. We want to keep our property at Tarawera, but if you choose option 1, we won't be able to, and we won't be the only ones. We have a diverse community that comprises young families, retirees, elderly, and ordinary working people. I think that's the kind of desirable community the council should be helping and fostering, or we'll be back here before long arguing about the merits of helicopter pads and marinas. I want to conclude today by telling you about an 11-year-old girl called Emily. In our local Tarawera newsletter is a section for a member of the community to talk about my Tarawera. In the latest edition, Emily says, I have belonged to Lake Tarawera as long as I can remember. I used to love coming out to Lake Tarawera often when my grandparents had a house out here, but now I'm lucky enough to live by the lake, so I get to enjoy it every single day. Sometimes it's a pain living far away from town, but every time we drive over the hill and I see the lake glistening below me, I smile and feel so grateful that I get to live in this little piece of paradise. Well, me too, Emily. My hope is that Emily's children and grandchildren will one day also be able to experience that. A great decision to help make that happen would be for you to vote for option 3 with the working group's conditions. Thank you.
Question if you would like, if you're open to that?
Sure, yeah.
Are there any questions from councillors? No, I think you've made yourself very clear. Thank you very much for your heartfelt submission.
Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'd like to invite Lake Ōkarika Community Association to make their submission, and this is on page number 70. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Mitch Collins aho. I'm Chair representing the Lake Ōkarika Community Association. We have concerns regarding the delivery of the Lake Tarawera Sewage Scheme as addressed in the Annual Plan 2025 consultation document. In the case of Tarawera, a failure to plan is a plan to fail, and I think Council have appeared to have executed that failure quite well here. Firstly, I want to bring the attention to the Lakes A Zone Plan, the very document that Council first erred in its determination of what was regarding earthworks a permitted activity, one that allowed Rotorua legal challenge and subsequent delays. This rule in the Lakes A Zone Plan itself by RMA standards is quite old, about 20 years dated. It should require statutory review every 5 years for effectiveness and efficacy. To my knowledge, this hasn't happened for 20 years. Now, we respect the Environment Court's deliberations and we support the progress of the scheme, but we think that a considerable portion of these additional costs could have been avoided with better planning. I do accept that consultation in this case can be both ways and that both parties need to engage. Only 5 years ago, we had issues around the mountain bike trail that went down to Lake Rotorua, and with the very same parties, I know that this trail built by Council did not go through a consent process. We were building a trail at the same time, we had to go through a consent process, one with arguably less impact too. The way that Council goes about doing their own consents There's a concern and the excuse that we don't go through the process because it causes ratepayer cost. It just doesn't wash because look at the resulting delays, the changes and the court cases that are required. They didn't learn that lesson 5 years ago, and I'm hoping that they learn that lesson now. The lack of foresight and the inability to manage both community and cultural concerns proactively have led to that excess financial burden on the Tarawera residents, and that's unacceptable. Secondly, while we acknowledge the importance of the Tarawera sewage scheme and the need to protect our lakes, we're concerned by the significant cost increases that have been associated with the project. Many years ago, Lake Okaraka went through the same process as Tarawera. Based on my communications with residents, it went largely without incident. It was about $15,000 in 2011, which is about $20,000 in today's terms. We're now just finishing paying off that finance through our rates, and we've heard anecdotes that the residents, they have noticed an improvement in the water quality for when they swim, no septic smells, and better health overall. So we remain grateful for that joint investment with Lake Okaraka in putting in that sewage scheme. I agree that most of those cost overruns are to do with bad timing. In 2018, I was looking at maybe a $20 million scheme for Tarawera. Then COVID happened and the sharp ebb and flow of public money and inflation had sharply increased those costs. About 3 to 4 years ago, Lake Okaraka had the misfortune of flooding. Bay of Plenty Regional Council were very generous and they fully funded the outlet upgrades for residents. That protected us from the recent high lake levels that we saw at Rotorua and Rotorua. Now, those were far happier times. We're only talking 3 to 4 years ago. But they were more generous times, and we as a community fully appreciated that support from Bay of Plenty Regional Council. I can only hope that that continues with the support of lake residents in this case, and I do implore that you seek generous support from Bay of Plenty Regional Council. We strongly advocate that neighbouring Tarawera residents should be insulated from bearing the brunt of these overruns, so an option 3+. Thirdly, we want to emphasise that the negative repercussions of this controversy extend beyond the Tarawera community. In Okaraka, we have witnessed firsthand how the community grapevine and our social media platforms, particularly our Facebook group, the Lake Okaraka and Tarawera community group, have been affected. The tone of online discourse has deteriorated significantly. A few individuals have exploited the situation using these platforms as a stage for their political agenda, and this has fuelled further division and distrust within our communities, and it's been damaging to overall social cohesion. So we've now established some level of community decorum in this group and set reasonable expectations of behaviour for participants. I have expelled one enthusiast, and yes, to a couple of councillors, it was me that removed you from that group. You can go back to your golf course. We trust that Council will carefully consider our concerns and take decisive action to rectify the issues surrounding the Tarawera sewage scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mitch, for making your submission in person as well. Would you be open to a question? Are there any questions? No? Thank you very much. We appreciate your submission on behalf of Lake Okaraka Community Association. We have no further submitters currently present, so I suggest we take a 10-minute break and we will return at 3:10 and see if there is anybody else here to make a submission. 3:10, yeah, 10 minutes. Thank you. We're going to take our submitter who is present here, and that is submitter Iris Arihi Harvey. And you do have a printed copy of her submission on your table. Otherwise, it is in, one moment. The printed, submitted number 2 on the printed one and volume 3, but it's just in front of you. So thank you very much, Iris, for taking the time to be here. You have 5 minutes, and over to you.
Okay. Her Worship, Mayor Tapsell, Deputy Mayor Kai Fong, elected councillors and council staff, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko arahi tōku ingoa, he uri ahau o no tūhaurangi Ngāti Wāhi ao, Ngāti Whakaue me ngā puhi hoki. I am here today on behalf of my whānau and our wider community as a resident and ahi kā of Tarawera, a committee member of the Ratepayers Association and a representative on the Tarawera Sewerage Working Group. To begin, I want to make it clear, I do not oppose progress, but I do believe it must be fair. What our community is asking for is simple: clarity, equality, equity, and above all, affordability. We are seeking a maximum cost of $36.6 thousand, including GST, for the reticulation system. Even that figure is a stretch for many, but it is far less overwhelming than the prospect of a bill of $50,000 or more. For many whānau, that difference could mean being able to stay in their homes. I want to acknowledge you, Mayor Tapsell, for approaching the Regional Bay of Plenty Council for support. I also thank both the councils for your commitment to finding a solution. It gives our community some hope that additional funding sources are being pursued. For my husband and I, the Tarawera Sewerage Reticulation Scheme has become a source of deep concern, particularly when we hear of other communities who have had their sewage connected for little or no personal cost. When we're faced with delays and what feels like inefficient consultation, it becomes even harder to accept the scale of financial responsibility being placed upon us. This is not just a matter of inconvenience. This is about the very real risk of financial hardship. The impact is already being felt. Some whānaus have already left Tarawera because the cost is simply too high. And I fear more will follow, not because they want to leave, but because they have no choice. Even last year, my husband and I seriously considered leaving as well, because we were frustrated at the ongoing process or lack of one. Our community is being priced out of its own place. I also speak from a place of deep cultural connection and concern. As someone who holds ahi kā, I worry that my people, my hapu, may never return to Tarawera. The whenua is calling them home, but rising costs may be the barrier that keeps them away. Tangata whenua were displaced from Tarawera once before, and now the thought that they may never return because of rising costs only revives the trauma of their past and threatens to repeat history. So in summary, I ask again for clarity for my husband and I, my community and my whānau. Please consider that rate that we're asking for, $36.6 thousand GST inclusive, and ensure it is payable in a way that reflects the realities of how we earn our living. You've heard and will continue to hear similar stories during these hearings, so I implore you, let our voices be heard, our realities understood, and our mana respected. He waka e ki no, we are all in this together. Please don't leave our community behind. Ngā mihi mō te wā I te ki te kōrero, mā te whakaaro nui ka pai ai te haere. Thank you for allowing me to speak. With considerable consideration, the journey can be good for all of us. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā koe, ngā mihi nui ki a koe arihi. Would you like any questions or no? It's okay? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to make your submission.
Thank you.
Elected members, we have no other submitters present, so I'd like to suggest we do another 10-minute break until 3:30. Submitters have been asked to arrive based on half an hour time slot, so we should have some more then. So we will come back at 3:30. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Just a reminder that this is now being live streamed, and we do have some submitters present, so we're going to take them in this order: Richard Walden, Jeff Thomas, Wallace Bain, and then our Rotorua Youth Council. So it's my pleasure to invite Richard Walden forward. You all have 5 minutes to make your presentation, and if there is any time remaining and you do feel comfortable, we can ask you some questions. Thank you very much, Richard. Over to you. Oh, sorry, and page 33 of your submissions.
Good afternoon. In addition to my written submission...
Oh, sorry, Richard, can you just turn your microphone on? Is it green?
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
Good afternoon. In addition to my written submission, I'd like to make or reinforce the following points. Over the life of this project, and to this date, the residents of Lake Tarawera have been seeking three things from Council. We have been seeking fairness, equity and certainty. Fairness includes being treated fairly and with appropriate degrees of respect. It means being open to dialogue and ideas. Fairness means not to threaten or attempt to split the community. Fairness means not passing on costs resulting from the Lake Rotorua delays. Fairness means taking responsibility for Council's mistakes. Equity simply means being treated with an even hand. In the context of this project, it means treating Tarawera similarly to Lake Rotorua, similarly to Lake Rotoiti. Equity means balancing costs appropriately across all ratepayers. Certainty means an end to an open chequebook on ratepayers. Sitting with our chequebooks open, our lives on hold. When will I be able to afford to retire? How will I live day to day with the new debt and rating costs? Can I keep my house? Will I have to sell up? How big a bill am I forced to pay? These are constant stresses on all of us. A one-off cost of $36,600, let alone $50,000, is a level of financial impact that any New Zealand family will struggle with, mentally and financially. An unknown cost is so much worse. As of today, we still don't have any of these three things delivered, or at least not delivered with any certainty. I'm strongly of the view that the $36,600 that the community has put in as our bottom line is an incredibly generous contribution to what is a locally, regionally and a nationally significant infrastructure of real importance as part of protecting Lake Tarawera, a crown jewel for Aotearoa by any measure. At $36,600, we are paying more than what is genuinely equitable. However, we make this offer in good faith. I was heartened to see and hear some of the nth hour considerations being presented in the webinar, which I only got to review post my submission and post feedback closing. It was encouraging to hear that at last we were being listened to. Still not there in terms of fairness, equity and certainty, but heading in the right direction. Equally, the nth hour engagement with VOP Regional Council is a positive development. It would now seem that you have all of the levers and options open to you to deliver not just certainty, but fairness and some degree of equity too. So I implore you, please don't stuff it up at this late stage. Deliver fairness by delivering the $36,600 goal without further debate or angst on the community, or go better than $36,600 to achieve some measure of genuine equity. Deliver us a certainty we can accept so that we can get on and plan our futures. Do this and we will get behind Council to get this project completed. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Would you like to take a question if there is one?
Yes, sure.
Any questions? Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Warden, for making time to come in and talk to us in person to your submission. Can I just ask, in terms of your points about equity, and I take on board what you're saying, do you appreciate that, unfortunately, Tarawera, not through any actions of this council, but Tarawera is not a deed lake as other lakes have, and hence received a higher government subsidy?
I do understand that. I think at the end of the day, though, we're talking about a sewage scheme which should be a right that we all should expect, and delivering on a sewage scheme, no matter what the lake, needs to be done in a fair and equitable way.
I take on board, but sorry, can I just re-emphasise my point? If we're not getting the same government subsidy or support as those other schemes did by Tarawera not being, and I'm not saying I agree with it, I wish you were at D-Lake, but since you're not, you would want council and ratepayers to pick up that extra cost?
Yes, because I think that's the fair and equitable thing to do.
Thank you. Do I have time for one more, or is it?
I think we'll wrap it up there. But
thank you.
Thank you,
Ms.
very
Warden,
much.
for coming.
Richard, we do appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now go to submitter 24, page number 41, and I'd like to introduce Jeff Thomas. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Oh. Right, good afternoon. In addition to my written submission, I actually have a concern, and a serious concern, and that is that on the council's website it is still claiming that the residents of Tarawera are sending between 200,000 and 300,000 litres of untreated sewage into the lake every day. Every day. It says that on the website. Now, if you take half of the, that's say, between 2 and 300, say 250,000 litres, so there are approximately 450 houses. That's an average of 555 litres per day per house. These are the council's figures, not mine. Per day per house. And the average, I checked with the bloke that cleans out the septic tanks. What's the average size of a septic tank? Between 2,200 and 2,500 litres. If you took 2,500, that means that every 4.5 days, every septic tank is emptied. Every 4.5 days, completely empty. I don't see how that can happen, but these are the council's figures, not mine. And 35% of the houses are permanent. Approximately 65% are holiday homes, so there's nobody there for most of the time. So it's very difficult to reconcile those figures, to be fair. And I ask just one question. Why does the council continue publicly to blame the Tarawera residents for sending 250,000 litres of untreated sewage into the lake every day? It's very difficult to understand. And so I would have thought we'd all be on the same page, we'd all be working together to try and achieve the best outcome for the lake, for the ratepayers of Tarawera, for the ratepayers of Rotorua, and the ratepayers of the Bay Plenty region. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are you happy to take a question or two?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start.
I'm a bit deaf, so if I don't hear very well, yes.
Well, we'll speak loudly into our mics. You mentioned 35% are permanent. We've also heard that 90% are holiday homes. Is this?
I'll tell you where I got that from, was talking to the people that have a business renting out homes. And I'm just quoting them. If it was 90% holiday homes, that makes it even more difficult to put so much sewage into the lake, I would suggest. But yeah, that's where I got that from.
Thank you very much. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for your submission, Jeff. Can I ask you, you raised this quite some time ago, correct?
Correct.
And it ended up in the media, correct?
Correct.
Did you actually have a response from anybody saying we're taking that down?
No, I'd never heard from anybody.
So that's still there?
The reason I raised it was there were posters put up in the public toilets at Tarawera suggesting people don't allow their children to swim because of all the sewage going into the lake, and we heard advertisements on the radio, and the full-page advertisements of the Daily Post stating the same thing. That is what got my attention. All the publicity that the council was spending ratepayers' money on to make the Tarawera people look pretty bad.
Did I hear you correctly saying that assertion is still on the council website?
Oh yes, publicly. Yes, there. I had a look this morning. Have a look. It's under the heading "Effect of Septic Tanks." It's the page there. It's still there. Yep. That's the only reason I raised it. The fact that it was still there. It was. I thought we were all on the same page. Of course we are. Of course we are. All right.
And final question from Councillor Maxwell.
Kia ora, Jeff. The best fisherman in Tarawera. Aroha mai, look, Councillor Patterson asked the question I was going to ask, but thank you for the response you gave, and thanks for coming and giving your presentation. Kia ora.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to welcome Wallace Bain to make his submission. This is page number 24, submitter number 14.
Thank you for, you hear me all right? Thank you for having me. I endorse the two submitters prior to me. They've made some very good points. Tarawera is the jewel in the crown of lakes in this area, and I suggest to you in New Zealand and partly around the world. I've done a lot of trout fishing, not only in New Zealand but around the world. It is the premium rainbow trout fishery in the world and draws a lot of people in. Should be promoted, it would draw more in. As a resident there for about 30 years, and having been brought out here when I was a young boy by my father fishing, it should be promoted, and it doesn't need promotion of wrong figures, 200,000 to 300,000 litres of raw sewage. Let me tell you how hurtful it is to hear that. I'm sitting in my car in the car park of Countdown. My wife's in doing supermarket shopping, and I listen to the 12 o'clock news on ZB. And so I have the news, I have the sport, I have the weather. And then comes on an announcement on behalf of the Rotorua District Council saying that be careful going to Lake Tarawera. The residents are putting in between 200 and 300,000 sewerage a day. Check on the website. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. And then to see and discover about A4 size, maybe slightly bigger, posters on the toilets out at the landing, Boatshed Bay, and only point. As Jeff said, telling people not to swim, it's dangerous. We swim in it, we boat in it, and for 30 years we've been drinking it. And apart from a wee bit of the shakes as I get older, it's still okay. A great deal of hurt has resulted in the way this has been handled. We should have trust and work closely with our council. And a number of people have felt that the council has been against them. And you'd have to wonder about that whole business of on the radio and the posters, why that is so. So I hope that the council will move as quick as it can and work with the working group and the Ratepayers Association, who are representing the community, is a lot more together now than it was when this first happened. Nobody knew what was going on and what the quantum was. How you could enter into some of the contracts without knowing how much it's going to be, I'm not quite sure. But however, we have to move on. So that's really all I want to say. Happy to answer a question if you want.
Thank you very much, Wallace. Are there any questions? No, there appear to be none. Thank you very much for taking the time to make your submission on behalf of yourself and also Juliet. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And I'll just say as I go that I've worked for a long time with councils, in Parliament in all sorts of directions, and it's important that we be at one with our councillors and our people. We've had 3 or 4 come out to meetings of the community. It's good to see. Just get on with it and get this settled. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wallace Bain. So our next submitters, our Youth Council, are you ready to make your submission now? Fantastic. So elected members, this is page 278, submitter number 95. And it's our pleasure to welcome our Rotorua Lakes Council youth councillors to make their submission. You have 5 minutes to do so, and when you're ready, we'll hand it over to you. Just make sure the mic is nice and close. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rooney Pereira, and most of the rest of the Youth Council couldn't make it due to extracurriculars, but we are here to represent our Youth Council.
Kia ora mai tātou, my name is Maya Blackman.
Hello, my name is Ashmet Danny.
Tēnā rā tātou e te whare. As rangatahi of Rotorua, it brings us great pride to represent a youth voice in decision-making that builds the future of our city. Within our written submission, we acknowledge the important aspects of community well-being, environmental protection, and the beautiful culture we hold in Rotorua. Firstly, we would like to acknowledge the effort made by the Council in the decrease of the proposed rates increase from 9.8% to 7.95%. However, we would like to restate that this decrease is still significantly high to many rangatahi and their whānau in our city. We ask that easing that financial burden on our community is a core consideration moving forward. Following this, the Tarawera sewage scheme. We are in support of investment into a sustainable wastewater infrastructure, as it is important for our lakes and our whenua. We believe that any decisions made about how to fund the scheme should remain fair and inclusive, taking into consideration not only the needs of the Tarawera community, but the wider Rotorua district as well. We encourage the Council to explore balanced funding options that reflect the shared responsibility of protecting the environment.
And at last, the Rotorua Night Market. The Rotorua Night Market is a place for youth such as ourselves to connect with friends. It allows us to let go for the time being and only worry about what we're going to be having for dinner. Personally, I have visited the night market countless of times with my friends. When we're all free, we get together, buy some food, and go to the lakefront to enjoy it with a good view. Therefore, imagine if the night market was already located there. Like tonight, many families and youth will grab food from the night market and visit the circus. If located in the village green, it could create the opportunity to increase connectivity between events. It allows the crowds to walk around the lakefront while immersing oneself with one of the most popular locations in Rotorua. As we have mentioned in the written submission, we think it would be beneficial to explore the possibility of having the night market in the village green, and we can look into alternating the location between Eat Street and Village Green between different weeks or seasons. We saw this last year during Matariki, as the night market was held in the village green and all the stalls seemed to be very spacious, which may have also been beneficial to the vendors. It being located in the village green allowed people to buy their food and engage in conversation while experiencing the beauty of the lakefront during the night.
As said, the night market should continue to run consistently throughout the summertime, as it not only benefits the community's economy through tourism, it also allows the vendors to guarantee sales due to good weather. Since during winter it cannot be very well predicted regarding whether the night market will happen or not, which usually disadvantages vendors and can cause them to lose a lot of money due to all the preparation beforehand going to waste, both time and effort. As to why trialing the bi-weekly idea may benefit both the youth and the vendors, as it allows us to still have the opportunity to get together with friends and go out for simple dinners with family, rather than always having to meet up in restaurants or in the city center. We suggest using this year for trialing the adjustments during winter time, or change in the location to form an educated decision that can take full flight next year, depending on the results, which will be seen within 2025.
As ngā rangatira o Apopo, the leaders of tomorrow, we urge the Council to hold the perspectives of youth when making these decisions on the annual plan. These decisions will be for our future and the Rotorua that stands for the following generations. We thank you again for the opportunity to speak today and hope this is one of many steps in strengthening youth involvement in council planning. Nō reira, ngā mihi mai o hātu ki a koutou.
Thank you. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou hoki. Actually, that was bang on time. Thank you very much. We appreciate hearing the voice of Ngā Rangatira o Apopo, the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you. And we'll now go to your page number 112. And I'd like to invite Lake Tarawera Sewage Working Group and Lake Tarawera Ratepayers Association. And I believe we have Henry and Mike. Welcome. And this is submitter number 52, councillors.
Kia ora. Your Worship, the Mayor and Councillors, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak. I've been here quite a few times and I'm not sure whether you've read our submission or not, but I'm pretty sure you've heard the messaging quite a few times. So I'm actually just going to only summarise what our submission actually says, and I hope Mike and I can both do it in under 5 minutes. So I'm speaking on behalf of the working group that have been working in detail on this now for a considerable amount of time. So our position is that we strongly support option 3, which is the allocation of an extra $4 million to stage 2. Our position is unwavering as far as option 3 is concerned, but there are 4 conditions attached to that. So the first one is that the capital rate is set at a maximum of 36,600. We're actually hoping it can go below that, but that's our cap, that's our position, and we're unwavering on that position. Just to give it some context, we've done quite a bit of looking at analysis. We believe that's the highest ratepayers will contribute to a sewage scheme actually in the country. So that's our position, our condition number 1. Number 2, that all existing costs and future escalations must be excluded. Any extra costs going forward. Number 3 is that the capital rate, there needs to be consultation between council management and the working group people. I can say, Your Worship, this has actually been happening since we put our submission in. So I do want to congratulate council management engaging with us in a detailed level. And finally, assuming that we can reach an agreement, it all needs to be documented, terms and conditions actually agreed to, and then ultimately we will need to go back to the community for their support. So that's a very quick summary in 2.5 minutes. So Mike, next 2.5 minutes is yours.
Yes, Your Worship and Councillors. Firstly, thanks for the opportunity to speak. We thought we'd merge our presentation, because you'll be hearing a lot in the next few days and you've already seen a lot of us, but thank you. We wanted to save some time. I think it was awesome to hear the leaders of tomorrow and their balanced views. That gave me huge heart, actually, to hear them say that they'd like to see a balanced outcome. That was quite something. I'm here to speak in support of the working group and the Ratepayers Association. I'll assume my submission is read. I won't bother you with my own personal submission, but just to say we've been entirely consistent. We hope we've been clear, and we are really keen to see a maximum of 36,600. I wanted to say thank you to Your Worship and councillors who attended at BOP Regional Council last week. I don't know where that's finally got to, but I hope that that's going to be helpful in your deliberations. When I speak to them, they'd like to see an outcome as well, so I hope things are going the right way there. And I just wanted to say from here, assuming we get the right outcome, we stand ready to engage with the community to make sure this is as seamless as possible. This is a project that's attracted rancour in more than one place. We don't like that, we don't want that, and I'm sure you're the same. And I'm sure, one thing I have said consistently, this group here, you, are to be heartily congratulated that this is the last lakefront reticulation community. And I just hope we can go forward from here and enjoy the success of that and celebrate, actually, the completion of what's been a fantastic job over a number of years. That's it from me. Are there any questions?
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you explain why you settled on 36,600 as a number?
Yeah, hey, so...
I asked Henry the same question.
Yeah, hey, Councillor Lee, hey, so when the working group got put together at the start of 2024, there was just such a divide in the community. So we actually looked back at other community schemes, including the sewage schemes in the Rotorua Lakes District, Yes, there are deed-funded lakes, etc. So at that time, we looked at stage 1, stage 2, what had been contracted and what was expected to be contracted, which was 29 million, and so we took a position of 50-50 between the community and other stakeholders. There are different devices, and this is some of the detail that still needs to be worked through for stage 1 and stage 2. So when we worked through that and modelled that, that's where we ended up with the 36,600. Yes, there's been other decisions that's been made since then. I understand that Rotorua have been settled at a lower number and at a lower percentage, but we took a principled position that that we focused on a solution outcome, and there's a lot of people in the community thinks that the 36,600 is too high, but we took the principled position when we started the process.
So it's 50% of the cost of the scheme?
Hey, so it was 50% of the cost of the scheme at that time.
Before the extra 3.5 million or 3.2 million?
Yeah, hey, so there has been contributions since then, so Rotorua Lakes Council, you'll be aware of this through your long-term plan. You've put some more funding in. There's the Better Off Fund that's actually been put in also. But we've maintained our position around, when you say a maximum of 36,600.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you very much for answering those questions and for taking the time to present today. We appreciate all of the work that you're doing for Lake Tarawera.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you. Elected members, we don't have any more submitters present, but we were planning to take a 15-minute break now, so we will do that, and we will return at 4:15 and then take the submitters until they conclude this afternoon. Thank you. Going to go to Zoom, and joining us very shortly on Zoom is Brian Hanna, and this is page number 28, submitter number 17. Is that Brian? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Excellent. You're coming through very clearly. So you have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you very much for joining us by Zoom, and we'll hand over to you.
Tēnā koe. Kia ora, Your Worship and Councillors. It's great to be here by Zoom. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but I just want to acknowledge you as Council having I know the challenges of sitting in your seats and trying to make those tough decisions around funding priorities and also who pays for what. We've had a place, as you would have seen in my written submission, at Tarawera for some 20 years and always been a strong supporter of the scheme. Knowing the geology over there of the Rotorua mud sitting on top of pumice and the jewel that Tarawera is, I have to say we've always supported that actually there must be a better way of enhancing and protecting such a beautiful lake, and it's been a privilege to have spent so much time there. I suppose I've always had the approach of what is fair and equitable in my roles as a councillor and as a previous mayor. And as I mentioned in my submission, I've always been strong on actually, I had concerns about the way the terminology around exacerbator of lake water decline. I don't really want to debate the water quality issue, but I think that Tarawera being one of the lowest lakes, there's a lot of inflow from other lakes and both groundwater and overland, and wastewater is one contributor. But I think I'm really interested in actually the benefactors. I know I mentioned in my submission I was involved in 2 small town greenfield wastewater plants that got established, and as I look back decades later now, the benefit around public health, the whole community has been probably far greater than ever thought. And I think in this case there is huge local benefit, huge regional benefit, and global benefit. And I think, as I said also in my submission, I always challenged councillors I was working with to have their hand on their heart and say, actually, is this fair and equitable? And in this situation, I've asked the questions around, is it fair and equitable to ask Tarawera residents to pay a significant higher level of input than financially than other lakes that have had sewage schemes installed? And I know it's not a deed lake, but I think that doesn't change the overall benefits that the wider community and region receive. And I include region that because, I mean, one of the reasons this is happening is a strong challenge from the regional council to say, look, we're not going to accept some of these current schemes going into the future in terms of on-site treatment. So I think that, you know, and I really support your stance in approaching regional council for more funding. But I suppose I want to come in from a different tact from maybe other submitters saying, want to work with you. I know the challenges you face. And I think if I look nationally, we always talk in local government circles of costs. And from an infrastructure perspective, I like to use the term investment. I think these are long-term investments. And when they talked of costs, the shutters come up and people get concerned. I think this is a long-term investment and it needs to be looked at how that can be funded in the appropriate way. I think I support previous submitters that talked about the offer of 50% as being fair and equitable and could be deemed to be generous. But I think it's really important that we support. I think as a council, I've watched Rotorua do so much fantastic work in so many infrastructure spaces over a long period of time. So I commend you for that. And we just want to see a solution, some certainty as we go forward. So kia ora koutou, thank you for your time. I want to acknowledge my mate Trev. I don't think there's many people that have been involved in local government over the past 20 or 30 years that don't know Trevor. So haere mai, Trev, and thank you very much for your time.
5 minutes. So we thank you very much for your time making your submission in person as well. Wish you all the best.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. We'll take a short pause, take a break now. What I'd like to do is just wait until 4:30, and if there is nobody that arrives by 4:30, because we have taken a number of them early, then we'll adjourn for the day. So if you don't mind just hanging tight for 5 minutes, and we'll see if anybody else turns up. anybody turn up downstairs. They were asked to be here for this session about between 15 and 20 minutes ago. So I think it's safe to say we are unlikely to have anyone else join us. So I will adjourn the meeting for today at 4:30, and we will see you all again tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Thank you.